the lone top 10 is here. When you think about some frozen timepieces, what do you think about that if it relates to death and disaster? Well, both of those will be combined. So some of these timepieces are very famous because, well, also these timepieces may help archaeologists discover about what exactly happened and stuff like that. So, anyway, these timepieces are very popular and they mark death and disaster. So that's why I created a top 10 list on frozen timepieces that marked death and disaster. Recently, I wouldn't think about this, but the reason I haven't been making a video for a couple days, guys, is because I was doing some stuff on my brand new computer. Honestly, I am not on the new computer right now. Still trying to get the screencast command hooked up and the microphone. Hopefully it should be ready here tomorrow. That is when I'll be making videos on YouTube. Well, again, I'm right now making videos on here, but I'll make videos on the bigger computer starting tomorrow. So I just have to remember that. Alright, we're a little bit late. So number 10 is the Pirate's Pocket Watch. On June 7, 1692, the town of Port Royal in Jamaica was destroyed by a major earthquake. Shortly before noon, residents heard a thunderous cracking noise before feeling the earth shake violently. Alright, and watching half of their city slip into the sea. So literally, it looks like half of the people in Port Royal died. 300 years later, historians began to explore the underwater ruins. The most famous artifact recovered from the ruins was a pocket watch manufactured in the Netherlands around 1686. The hands on the watch were stopped at exactly 11:43 a.m., the also exact time of the earthquake and the watch's entrance into the sea. Although other records noting the time of the quake do exist, the discovery of the pocket watch was the first time that a stopped clock was used by archaeologists to date a disaster down to the very minute. So, nice job, archaeologists. Nice job. Number 9 is Casey Jones' pocket watch. Now, railroad enthusiasts know the story of John Luther Casey Jones, a train engineer who heroically died, saving his passengers during a collision near Vaughn in Mississippi, which is located here in the USA. So, while approaching the station of Vaughn, Jones and his signalman noticed something on the track ahead. They realized too late that it was the tail end of another train that was too long to fit siding. Now, the signalman leaped from the cab on Jones's orders, leaving Casey to his fate. A few seconds later, Jones's train collided head-on with the other cars. When Jones's badly mangled body was pulled from the wreckage later that day, well, it was found that his pocket watch had stopped at exactly 3:52 a.m., the exact time of the impact. Although Jones died as a result of the crash, his actions ensured that he was the only fatality. No else involved with either train suffered more than minor injuries. Number 8 is the Titanic's mantle clock. Now, you know, April 14, 1912. Actually, April 14th to the April 15th, 1912. That's what Titanic said. So, the story of the Titanic, the so-called unsinkable luxury ocean liner, is well known. On the night of the 14th of April, 1912, the ship had struck an iceberg, and also sank into the North Atlantic. During the early morning hours of April 15th, taking approximately 1,500 people with it. Equals 1,500 people died. Although there were many pocket watches and clocks retrieved from both the victims and the ship itself, the most interesting one remains with the wreck. The clock is located on the fireplace of the Strats suit used by Macy's founder Isidore Strass. Did I say that right? Isidore Strass, his wife. Upon the dilapidated mantle, surrounded by sand and debris, sits a golden clock, looking almost as new as it did the day it was made. Old pictures of the suit in its heyday show that the sinking did not affect the clock's position at all. Its face, however, has seen some damage and is hard to read. the documentary Tony Robinson's Titanic Venture Hypothesis that the hands stopped either at 2:04 a.m. when the last lifeboat was released, or 2:20, the very minute the ship plunged beneath the waves. Very nice. Number 7 is John Taylor's pocket watch. So, Joseph Smith, founder of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, was killed on June 27, 1844 by a group of angry Illinois town people. After a long legal debacle that began with the destruction of an anti-Mormon newspaper's printing press, Smith and a few other people waited in the Carthage, Illinois jail for a trial. There they saw a mob of around 200 men marching toward the building. Although Smith was killed in the attack, his friend John Taylor miraculously survived. In the melee, Taylor tried to escape by jumping from the jail window, but was pushed backward by the force of a gunshot from below. The shooter had been aiming for Taylor's heart, but instead hit his watch, which he kept in his left vest pocket. The hands of the watch stopped at exactly 5:16 p.m., approximately the time that Joseph Smith breathed his last. Taylor later took his miracle watch to Salt Lake City, Utah, where he eventually became president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The watch remains in the church's archives to this day. Alright, so let's see here, guys. Apparently this computer's a very, very laggy computer, guys. So, you might have to give me about one moment here to actually get this up. Alright, number 6 is the Chernobyl clock. Everybody in America and the Soviet Union, or Russia, knows about the Chernobyl disaster that took place in April 26, 1986. So, this is when the Chernobyl nuclear power plant experienced a meltdown after a safety test went catastrophically wrong. In the ensuing hours, the power plant and nearby areas were blasted with radioactive energy, heat, and fire. In 2005, interpretive photographer Gerd Ludwig ventured into the radioactive ruins of the power plant for a 15-minute photography trip. Although all the photographs of ghostly controlled rooms and empty hallways are stunning, was on one scene that Ludwig truly risked his life to capture. Deep in the heart of the reactor, where the radiation is strongest, Ludwig ventured into a room hidden behind a steel door. In a few seconds allowed to him, he saw an old clock hanging on the wall. Its hands stopped at 1:23:58 a.m., the exact time at which the reactor exploded. The image of the clock spoke so much to Ludwig that he begged to be allowed a few brief seconds in there to photograph. In his last words, the time went on April 26, 1986, in the building of the House Energy Block number 4. Time stood forever still. Alright, number 5 is the trade workers' clock. Now, so the entire world knows 9/11, in which the United States suffered the worst terrorist attack in its history. Although the U.S. has largely rebounded from the tragedy, 9/11 will never ever be forgotten. Each plane crash site was made into a memorial. The World Trade Center, the Pentagon, the Shanksville, So, in 2005, the Ground Zero Museum Workshop opened in New York to honor the dead and remain the living of that terrible, terrible day. Also, I was alive then. I was born a year after. That is a little bit of history. So, one of the featured items in the museum is a clock found in the wreckage. Its hands pointing to 10:02 and 14 seconds in a.m., when the South Tower exactly on that time collapsed. The clock was discovered in the break room used by local train workers alongside the remnants of their weightlifting bench. Pretty nice. Alright guys, number 4 is the photographer's pocket watch. So, this relates to August 6, 1945. The future of warfare will be changed forever at that time. Whether truly murdered or not, U.S. military leaders decided to destroy the city of Hiroshima, Japan, exactly at that time, with the aim they secretly been building, the atomic bomb. Roughly 100,000 people were killed in the attack, and everything within a 2.6-kilometer radius was completely turned to rubble. Not powerful as the Tsar Bomba in Russia, you know. So, in the aftermath of the bombing, 19-year-old Shinji Mikimo returned to Hiroshima to dig through the ruins of his family home. There he found his grandfather's golden pocket watch, which had been originally given as payment for serving as imperial photographer. Even though the watch's hands had been blown off, the heat of the blast had seared the time of the bombing into the melt below. Leaving the clock to always read 8:15 a.m., Shinji donated the watch to the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum in 1955, and then to a museum in the United Nations headquarters in New York. Unfortunately, the watch has disappeared in 1989 and has not been seen ever since that time. Alright, number 3 is the Murrah building clock. Everybody knows the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. That's exactly what I'm talking about. This clock was found in the Oklahoma City bombing. Now, that was masterminded by two criminals who were disgruntled with the government, so they decided to bomb the Murrah building. It was one of the deadliest terrorist attacks, let me say that clear. I felt like I was doing a little bit of mumbling, so. Anyway, so that was the most deadliest terrorist attack before 9/11. And everybody knows the date, April 19th, 1995. A moving truck loaded with explosives detonated outside the building, killed 168 people, 19 of whom were children under the age of 6. That's not good. And injured more than 650 people. 3 months later, the remains of the memorial building were demolished, so that memorial and museum could be built on the grounds. The idea of stop time is heavily integrated into both the memorial and the museum. Two large structures known as the Gates of Time flank the entrances of the outside or outdoor memorial, each inscribed with a timestamp of significance. The eastern gate time says 9:01, which represents the last moments of peace before the blast. Its parallel, the western gate, reads 9:03, the first moments of recovery. Enshrined in the museum, however, is a memento that marks the exact time of the explosion, a clock posed at 9:02 a.m. Alright, number 2 is the Apollo church clocks, or Apollo church clocks. Now, Apollo, which is a small town located in southwestern Germany, now the Bass chemical plant was responsible for the production of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, which is stored in a large silo alongside another chemical. Unfortunately, these two chemicals had a habit of getting stuck together, a situation that was remedied with the use of dynamite charges. While this operation was dangerous, it was also commonplace. However, Apollo's luck ran out on September 21st, 1921, when the fertilizer exploded. The huge blast left both the factory and the town destroyed. What did survive were several clocks belonging to nearby churches. Every single one was found to have stopped at 7:33 a.m., the exact time of the explosion. Pretty much the only disaster nobody really noticed besides Casey Jones. So, alright, number one is the tsunami clock. Now, everybody knows that tsunami that took place in 2000 and, well, not in 2004, but another one in 1960. While the Hawaiian Islands were seen as a paradise by many, many still face their rife in nature on occasion. The city of Hilo in Hawaii, located on the Big Island, have faced 2 major tsunamis in the last century, the second of which was on May 23rd, 1960. Not the one 2004, guys, 1960. One of the area's famous landmarks, a green clock, located on the low-lying suburb of Wakila Town, survived the first tsunami, but was heavily damaged by the second. Its hand stopped at 1:04 a.m., the time at which the first massive waves hit the island. The clock has been kept in this condition as a memorial to those who lost their lives in haunts and still stands today. Walaka Town no longer exists. Its former lands have been replaced with public parks and green spaces. Pretty nice. Alright guys, so that is the end of today's top 10 list. Don't forget to support my Patreon list down below. Don't forget to support my Patreon is what I meant to say. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, or thumbs up, and see you guys next time in another awesome video. Take care.